to Primetime Debate. I'm Tamanna. Is the government and the UIDAI targeting journalists who expose loopholes within the Aadhaar system instead of strengthening the system? Well, the question arises after an FIR has been filed naming journalist Rachna Khera of the Tribune and others involved in her story, where access to the entire Aadhaar database was bought for just 500 rupees. Now, reportedly, this is not the first time UIDAI has reacted to commentary and investigative pieces on Aadhaar's weaknesses with criminal action. But the agency denies that it is shooting the messenger. A day after that FIR was filed, Union Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad has attempted to tone down the narrative that journalists are being targeted. But what are the facts and what does the law say? Now, to talk about this, I'm joined this evening by Mohandas Pai, the co-founder of Aarin Capital and former Infosys CFO, Supreme Court advocate Apar Gupta, and political commentator Neerja Chowdhury. Welcome all, and thank you for speaking with us on Primetime Debate. Mr. Mohandas Pai, I'm going to begin with you because you have been one very strong voice over the last 24 hours or so on social media saying that what UIDAI has done is completely correct. And this was, of course, before the government and UIDAI attempted to say that, no, we're not trying to target Tribune, etc., etc. But can you explain your position for us?
See, my understanding is UIDAI has filed an FIR for somebody admitting to hacking into the database and accessing the information of somebody else. Now, the media says very clearly, and I would like to read, the newspaper reported it received an offer to buy access into database for 500. The journalist was given login details. The journalist tried to key in an individual's Aadhaar number, was able to see the demographic details the person concerned, the newspaper claimed. That means the journalist hacked into the system. Hacking, in my view, as per the law that I know, is illegal under the Aadhaar Act, is illegal for taking a stolen property under the IPC and under the IT Act. Publishing a report is not illegal. Nobody can go against you and file an FIR for publishing any report. And if any information comes to you, which information is confidential, the law is very clear. You can use the information, write a report, quote the information. Nobody can go against you. That is freedom of expression. The limited issue here is you got a stolen passport. You use the passport to hack into a system yourself. You access data which was not yours, and that, in my mind, is an illegal act. And if UIDAI files an FIR against the person for admitting that it was done, I don't see anything wrong. Let the investigation happen. Let the case go on. It is not an affront against the freedom of expression. It's not a fight against the freedom of the media at all.
Sure. My simple question to you is, how would Rachna Khera have proven, and first of all, this started because I spoke with Rachna Khera on the show a few days ago. It started with her seeing WhatsApp messages selling this service of access to the Aadhaar database. She went on to investigate it, posing as someone and then paying that 500 rupees and buying that access. How else would she have done the story, Mr. Pai? What else would she have done? Waited for someone else to do it and then give it to her?
Look, can you say, how else can I write a story but by breaking the law? It is no excuse. I can't break the law. For example, I'll give you another example. Suppose somebody calls you and says, I got a passport, I got a password to hack into a bank's database and transfer money. Do you want it? You said, yeah, give it to me. And you take it, you hack into a bank's database and transfer money, then publish it. I got this password, I hacked into it, and did it. You can be hauled up for hacking into the bank's network. Yes, you publish it with good intentions to show everybody the system is weak, that's fine. You did a great job. But the fact remains you hacked into it, so you can't complain against UDI for filing an FIR.
Okay.
UDI did its duty. And it is not an affront against the freedom of expression or the media. That's the limited point, that's all. If tomorrow they don't want the investigation, government says, no, it is fine, anybody can hack in, anybody can do, we are fine, we're not going to prosecute anybody, I'm okay.
All right, so there are 2 points to this. One
the
is
means are important as much as the end.
Sure. Let's just hear different opinions on the issue because there are two aspects to this. One is freedom of the press and how do you report on sensitive subjects which are in the large public good, and the other is the legality of it. So I'm going to come to Apar Gupta first on the legal angle for it. Apar, now based on the FIR, and as of now, as we know, the FIR still stands despite whatever the government and UIDAI is tweeting from its official handles. The FIR stands as of this moment, to the best of our information. Based on that, how strong a case is there against Rachna Khera and the Tribune, who have been named in the FIR? There's no doubt about that.
So, before I comment on the specifics of this FIR itself, and the FIR is there. It's a physically existing document. It's been registered under provisions of the Code of Criminal Procedure. And ministerial statements by itself may assuage a large amount of the public concern as well as reports in the media. But the fact remains, criminal action is being considered against a member of the press. Now, this FIR which has been launched on the basis of a complaint by the UIDAI. And it's interesting to note, firstly, that under the UIDAI Act, which establishes certain amount of legality for Aadhaar, which is questionable, the sole body which can basically put complaints to the police in case of any kind of data breaches is the UIDAI itself. So it's not as if my Aadhaar data has been breached, I have the ability of going to a police station and filing a complaint. Only the UIDAI can file such a complaint. Now let's even presume it does this in good faith. Yeah. What's been its track record till date does also indicate concern. Past FIRs have been filed against another member of the press, Devayan Ghosh, a journalist from CNN IBN, who was able to show another vulnerability in the system where he showed that basically you can enroll for multiple Aadhaar numbers at the same point of time, indicating that biometrics do not work well. Another FIR was subsequently registered against Sameer Kochar, who showed that biometric replay attacks could happen, which means that my thumbprint does not need to be there. I don't need to push my thumb again and again on a device, and the device can replay it. So authentication can happen without my physical presence. So basically, the process of law has been used even in the past, in addition to Mrs. Khera, to basically prosecute people who have shown vulnerabilities in the system. Okay, so it is a matter of concern. Secondly, what does the law say? And the framing right now as we are proceeding is that, hey, it may be an act of hacking, but at the same time, it may be an act of journalistic freedom. Well, it's not an act of hacking because all the provisions which are there in this complaint rely on a basic feature of criminal law, which is the presence of mens rea, which is a criminal intent needs to be there for the illegality to take place in the first instance itself. And this is sorely lacking in this instance. And finally, I would just like to say there's somewhat of a contradiction in the UIDA's stand, where its public statements seem to be placating any kind of public concern, and it's been saying that there hasn't been any unauthorized access of our data, but at the same point of time, it has gone and filed a complaint whereby it's alleging that there has been an unauthorized access. So its story is not straight, it has wide powers it's using against journalists, and also its own system is very intransparent and obtuse.
You know, I want to come to Neerja Chowdhury on the question that I asked Mohandas Pai, is how would a journalist do this story? And with this kind of a reaction, and Apar Gupta explains that this is not the first time it's happened, would then journalists start self-censoring or think twice, thrice before attempting any story which would display a possible loophole or weakness in the Aadhaar system?
I think there are many things in your question. Number one, this journalist could have written about apprehensions of a large number of people about the Aadhaar system, that it is possible it can be hacked. Of course, the matter went to court, and so one very concrete way for her was when she saw that WhatsApp, that is possible to do it with 500 rupees, and she showed it could be done. Now that brings the whole story home, and as my previous speaker was saying, there has to be, that's a legal point. Mr. Pai has made the point that it is covered by forgery, impersonation, etc., etc., and therefore the FIR, technically speaking, you can take that narrow little view. And the other speaker says you need to have criminal intent to have illegality. Both are legal positions. But I will submit to you, in the 80s, Indian Express, when Mr. Aarin Capital was the editor, had sent one of the reporters to buy a woman from the Hindi heartland, Kamla. It became an absolute sensational story, the ease with which Ashwini Sareen could buy this woman, and he brought her to Delhi, and it focused on the whole problem of prostitution and exploitation of women and the ease with which it was being done. Now, this was an innovative way to focus the country's attention to a very heart-rending problem to which women are subjected then and now. Similarly with Aadhaar, we've had sting operations also. So are you saying a journalist who wants to expose the lacunae, the failings in a particular scheme which is going to affect millions of people and our country's future, is actually, I would say, doing a service to the country? It's our job as journalists to highlight problems so that they can be redressed. And I would have thought the government would have said, very good, you've shown up these failings, we will take action to plug those loopholes. Instead, what do you have? You have that very journalist being penalized.
Yeah.
An FIR, I mean, I've been in journalism for 35, 40 years. I have not come across a case like that. And I would read it as an attempt. Is this an attempt to cow down journalists? Is it a message being sent out to journalists across the country that if you do this kind of thing, this is going to be your fate? It's a very, very worrying development as far as the freedom of the press and the media is concerned in our country, and we've been very proud of that freedom.
You know, Mr. Pai, I want you to respond to that, because one point that you made in your opening comments was that if Rachna Khera or any journalist, and I've seen that in your series of tweets as well when you talk about Watergate, if a journalist receives the information or documents from someone and prints them, it's okay. But if the journalist actively pursues that information, and in the process of pursuing that information, breaks the law, then it's a problem. So look at it from the point of view of the reader or viewer.
Yes.
You are saying that the journalist should palm off second-hand information instead of going out and getting the story, which is what our job is.
No, your job is not that of a police inspector, because you don't have any sovereign authority. You are a citizen like anybody else. You got no special privileges except under the law as a journalist. If you use sources to publish, you cannot be asked to disclose the sources. Apart from that, you are like you are a individual like anybody else, and the law applies to you like anybody else. Let me give you two cases. In the Pentagon case, Pentagon Papers case, when the government went against them and wanted to take a stay, went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says if any government's confidential information comes into your hand and you use it not to merely publish it but to comment on it and use section of it to disclose to the media, it's perfectly fine. It is not an infringement of the law. But if the journalist were to go inside, break in and steal the document, the act of stealing is an infringement of the law. And in the Watergate case, 5 people were caught for stealing in, taking the document. There are a lot of leakages. Publishing all that is not infringement of the law. It's perfectly fine. The only limited view I've got is you hacked into the system, which is against the law. You cannot hack into the system. Tomorrow you can hack into a banking system. You can hack into any system and say, I did it for journalism. Now, between that investigative journalism who write for a newspaper and a person who writes a blog, what is the difference? Both are publishing. Both are in both are publishing. Both say I'm a journalist. There is no difference.
No, that's an important point. So let's get some more clarity on that. And Apar, just on that point about hacking into the system, it's not like Tribune hired hackers and said, let's see if we can hack Aadhaar system. This was a service that was available and being advertised. So anyone could have used that service. One second, I just want to get Aadhaar's point of view there.
Interestingly, Tamanna, there are a chain of facts which have not reached the public as widely as they should have. The Tribune, its story itself, which is published, prefacing that, there's a report by the Tribune itself that it discovered this due to the inaction of the UIDAI acting on a report by a whistleblower who was a village-level entrepreneur called Bharat Bhushan Gupta. So he first reports that on WhatsApp a service is offered to him, he takes it and he discovers that it works. Lo and behold, he can check the Aadhaar details, demographic details of his friends. He calls up 1947, which is the helpline toll number for Aadhaar by itself, reports this security vulnerability to them, does not get any response, and then approaches the Tribune. Now, what is the essential duty of the press? The essential duty of the press itself is to shine light on such issues. It's actually to draw public attention when our systems of governance are not responsive, when our public authorities are ignoring citizens in their performance of their statutory duties by itself. I would also like to state that multiple RTIs have been filed with the UIDAI asking for copies of its security policy and what are the security measures it puts into place. Does it have proper third-party audits which are made? And these are the issues which have come to fore now. It's actually a much more systemic rot there in the system,
I want to narrow focus on the point about where does journalistic duty seep into law? Because at the crux of this entire debate, that is the point. And Neerja, I want your comment on it, because Mohandas Pai says that journalists are not cops. We have the same rights as citizens, and the only thing that protects, in his view, journalists is that we don't have to reveal our sources. You've talked about incidents where journalists have in the past broken the law with the intent of larger public good. Is there a grey area there, Neerja?
Look, I think if the intention was personal benefit, it would be different. Suppose they'd hacked this data and used it for their unscrupulous purposes, or I would say it's different. They have immediately done it. They saw that it's possible to do it. 500 rupees, it's possible to do. So she proved it was possible to do, how easy it is to do. And therefore, I would say it's the legitimate duty of any journalist looking into this issue, if she finds this is happening, then to bring it to the government's attention, to society's attention, to everybody's attention, because Aadhaar is getting linked to everything. So I think she was doing a public duty in this case. I would say, anything, a communal riot is taking place, two people are getting into a fight, and the journalist reports, am I going to say, no, I'm not reporting, it's the duty of the cop?
Yeah.
How can a journalist who's on the spot, who's supposed to be, as I said, exposing, highlighting
Mr. Pai,
that go wrong in society?
Just 1 minute, Mr. Pai.
Let me, Tamanna. Mr. Tamanna.
Yeah.
Mr. Tamanna, okay, let me take a case. Now, I'm an individual, I'm not a journalist, all right? I'm not a journalist, I'm an individual.
Yeah.
I don't have a journalist tag. People are tweeted and said, who is the joker who says so-and-so is not a journalist. Journalists are special people. Okay, fine. They're special people. I go to that web, find out somebody is doing. I buy that password. I buy everything. I use it to hack into the system. I download some data. I put the data on my blog. And UIDAI will file an FIR against me for unauthorized access. Now, that blog is available to everybody. It's on social media. I tweet. Now, will the same set of people rise to protect me? To say that, no, he's a journalist, he's perfectly fine, he's doing a public service, will they do that? What's the difference between a hacker who does that and publisher me?
Apar spoke about Mr. Kochan, who's not a journalist,
exactly, see,
who was also targeted.
Exactly, that's the point. Look, I feel, no, it's not about targeting. Please, let's not use words like targeting. There is a law, you change the law and say under UDI Act, anybody for public service or public benefit can hack into the system and publish it, and it will not be a criminal act. That's fine. Please do that. Let the law be changed. It's okay. But we should be a country governed by the rule of law. It's a very limited point. And if you say breaking the law is okay because I'm a journalist, I can say breaking the law is okay because I'm a citizen journalist. I don't belong to a newspaper. I'm publishing a blog. I'm also a journalist. Everybody can say I'm a journalist. So no mens rea can attach to me. Now, will it work?
There's some very interesting points being raised here, especially in the day and age of citizen journalists, of social media, of access to data and easy access to disseminating information. And admittedly, it's a tough time for journalists and for those receiving information to sift facts from fiction. But in this case, at the very least, one can perhaps take hope from the fact that UIDAI is now asking Rachna Khera and the Tribune to cooperate with them and want to get to the bottom of how this breach was even possible. Thank you so much, Mohandas Pai, Neerja Chowdhury and Apar Gupta for joining us this evening on Primetime Debate.